I'm Amy Goodman with Democracy Now!'s Aaron Mate.
And welcome to our listeners and viewers. We begin today's show in the West African nation of Mali, where the French military has entered the 5th day of a large military offensive. The campaign aims to oust rebels that have held much of the country's north since March, an area larger than Afghanistan. France currently has 750 troops in Mali, but that number is expected to soon triple. On Monday, the UN Security Council expressed support for French intervention in its former colony, which reportedly came at the request of Mali's government. This is French UN Ambassador Gérard Araud.
It happened on, I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday, that suddenly the terrorist armed groups have launched an offensive. They have taken the city of Konna, and at this moment, our assessment was that they were totally able to take Bamako. And so we decided that what was at stake was the existence of the state of Mali, and beyond Mali was the stability of all West Africa. So it's with determination, but also with reluctance, that we have decided that we had no other choice to launch this military intervention. And we will conduct it as long as it will be necessary.
The U.S. has backed France's offensive in Mali. The Los Angeles Times reports the Obama administration is preparing to ferry hundreds of additional French troops to Mali. In addition, U.S. officials say they're also making plans to send drones or other surveillance aircraft. Meanwhile, France has also called on a force of 3,300 West African troops to deploy in support of the Malian army faster than originally planned. The French strikes in Mali have reportedly killed 11 civilians, including 3 children, fleeing the bombardment of a camp near the central town of Konna. The UN estimates as many as 30,000 may have been displaced since fighting began last week. Ali Nargi works with the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Well, the situation is of concern to the ICRC. It's fast deteriorating. Mass displacement of population is already being observed. Casualties are as well reported. And we're trying our best to address humanitarian needs of the population. Internally displaced people have now gathered in Mopti, fleeing places such as Konna and Douenza in the other side of the front line.
Well, for more, we're joined by several guests. We'll begin with May Ying Welsh, a reporter for Al Jazeera, who's been reporting from Mali's northern region. May Ying, welcome to Democracy Now! She's joining us from Al Jazeera's headquarters in Doha, Qatar. Can you give us background on what's happening right now?
Hi, Amy. I can. You know, I think one of the things that's gotten lost in a lot of the talk about al-Qaeda and Mujahideen and all of that is the way that this conflict started. This conflict started with a movement of secular Tuareg separatists who rose up and demanded an independent state, and who started to sweep down into the northern two-thirds of Mali to take over the area which they consider theirs. And they were shadowed in this operation by some other Tuaregs that had different views, more religious views, as well as al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and some other actors. And, you know, together, sort of in an alliance not of the willing, they took over the area. And then from that point on, the al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb and the Mujahideen, the local Mujahideen who are allied with them, sort of took over the cities of northern Mali from the Tuareg separatists. So I think, you know, the genesis of this whole conflict is the Tuareg people of northern Mali demanding a state, which is a very old demand, which goes back to 1963 of the first Tuareg rebellion. And I think it also needs to be mentioned that France has very important economic interests, not necessarily in Mali, but in neighboring northern Niger, which is also a Tuareg area. And this whole area of northern Mali and northern Niger is a uranium-rich area, which is a Tuareg area and which shares the same tribes going back and forth between the two, some of the same tribes, some of the same families even. And usually when you have a Tuareg rebellion or uprising in Mali, it spreads to Niger, And when you have one in Niger, it spreads to Mali because they're really all one people, and the Tuaregs in general have a kind of a national sense. I would compare them with the Kurds. They consider themselves one people, whether they're in the Sahara of Algeria or the Sahara of Libya or the Sahara of Mali or the Sahara of Niger. For them, it's just their homeland. And so, you know, France has a huge economic interest in northern Niger. That is, northern Niger is one of the world's biggest reserves of uranium. France gets 75% of its electricity from nuclear power, and as we know, France is a major exporter of nuclear power, and it's a major component of France's military-industrial entity. I mean, uranium. You know, the uranium from Niger, which is France's former colony, really was a key for France in its own development. I mean, they developed their nuclear industry on the back of that very cheap uranium coming from northern Niger, which, by the way, Niger is one of the bottom 3 poorest countries in the world, according to the UN Human Development Index. I mean, it has one of the world's most important resources, and yet it's one of the poorest. Northern Mali also has a large amount of uranium, and the whole area has been divided up into exploration concessions, and there are a number of companies that are just waiting for the chance to get in there, and also gold and oil.
As we understand this background, I want to turn to a report that Al Jazeera's May Ying Welsh filed in the summer from northern Mali. She explains how al-Qaeda-linked groups managed to expel Tuareg rebels from their self-declared rule, suspending their plans for statehood.
Tuareg rebels train in Gao to defend their new self-declared state. Who could know, in a few short days, they'd be violently expelled from this base? Or that their new president, only just appointed head of state, would be shot and evacuated from the country. Al-Qaeda-backed rebels expelled separatist Tuaregs from their main bases in northern Mali, hoping to terminate their plans for an Azawad state. Now, Al-Qaeda and its allies are running the region's cities. As Al Jazeera left the city of Gao, fighters from the Movement for Unity and Jihad in West Africa were closing in, taking over the city gates and all traffic going out and coming in. In Timbuktu, Al-Qaeda offshoot Ansar ad-Din fully control the town, patrolling this city of Islamic learning for alcohol, adultery, and other violations of Sharia law. Here, the fighters from Algeria and Mauritania mingle with mujahideen from across the Sahel. And from their perch high above Timbuktu, Ansar ad-Din told Al Jazeera they'll never ask them to leave.
They're brothers in Al-Qaeda, are our brothers in religion, and they are here with us, overseeing things in the same area that we are working, and our relationship with them is one of Muslim to Muslim. By what right could we expel them, and to serve who? As a service to France or America?
At this hideout in another northern town, Tuareg rebels say Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb are proxies of Mali and Algeria, utilized for years to isolate Tuareg communities and prevent the appearance of a Tuareg state.
The main enemy of the Malian government is the northern rebellion, the Tuareg. This is the belief system upon which the Malian state is based, that the primary enemy is the Tuareg. Because since the birth of Mali, Tuaregs said the Malian state had taken their land, just like the French colonialists, and that Tuareg land, Azawad, has never in fact been part of Mali.
Tuareg rebels are now scattered, trying to regroup. They don't have the logistics and high-tech gear of their rivals, or the hundreds of millions in cash that Al-Qaeda has from hostage ransoms. What they have is a seemingly endless supply of young men, ready to die for the cause. A 50-year-old self-determination struggle of the Sahara's indigenous people.
That's May Ying Welsh's report from Mali. She is a reporter for Al Jazeera English. We're going to go to a break. And when we come back, the second part of that report as we go back to her in Doha, Qatar. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. Back in a minute. Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily independent global news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.